Thomas Chatfield was awarded the 2016 Bay of Plenty Dairy Farm Manager of the Year and went on to win the national title. Thomas has been in the dairy industry for 4 years. He's one of a growing number in the industry who are not from a farming background, but who have studied and worked in other careers before switching to farming.
Originally I trained as a physiotherapist. I graduated from Otago Uni in 2007. I worked in Tauranga Hospital for a couple of years as a physio and then travelled to London, worked there as a physio. And it was when I got home to New Zealand from the UK that I was staying on a farm with a friend and I was doing a little bit of physio work. And then on the weekends found myself in the cow shed, and then one thing led to another and I was offered a full-time job on a dairy farm, and I couldn't see a reason not to take it. I thought I'd only get that opportunity to do something like that once. My first year here was the second season we had the barn behind me. It's a really useful tool in terms of managing our pasture and protecting our pasture. We winter everything on, so we use that barn pretty much flat out through winter just to keep the cows from damaging our paddocks. We can get summer dry, so we have got half of the farm irrigated. That can certainly dry right out the other side of the road where we are irrigated. Apart from that, I mean, it's a pretty nice spot to farm. We get reasonably consistent rainfall most of the time, but with the irrigation we can manage the deficits. Pretty warm, but pretty mild winters as well. That allows us to winter on. We do grow a bit of grass through winter. We also do a little bit of winter milk just with some of our late calvers and empty cows. It's a Jersey farm. I think part of the Jersey is a legacy of Bruce's father. It was a Jersey farm when Bruce took over. We do find that they fit quite well in the system here. You know, we're able to run a slightly higher stocking rate than we would if we had Friesian, so that allows us to have kind of more cows to make more milk. When I first started, I spent most of my evenings just flicking through the trade rags, magazines, the newspapers. I was pretty fortunate that some of the people that I had contact with in my early days, which was not that long ago, were really smart, skilled farmers. And then from there, I also I wanted to have a real good foundation to what I was learning and base it on a bit of fact. So I did do a primary ITO course, their level 4 dairy farming course, and I did that in my first year, and that kind of just set the ground rules for everything else, and it gave me something perspective on everything. Since then I've moved on, I've done the production management level 5, which kind of just drilled a bit deeper into analysing the numbers and making sure things stacked up. But all the way along the way, just any chance I could learn something, so be it field days, any emails that you're getting from the likes of Dairy NZ or the local discussion groups, all those kinds of things, just attending as much as I could. It's as tough as you want to make it. There's, you know, you can farm really simply and be effective, but you can also get right down into the nitty-gritty of things and make it as complicated as you want to, and you will see benefits from that as well. I think my people management has certainly come from physiotherapy. There's a big part of physiotherapy is getting people to do something that they don't necessarily want to do. So, you know, managing their expectations so that they get the outcome they want, and that's transferred really well into farming or into managing people on the farm. And I think the fact that we're in our 3rd season now here on Dreamfields with the same team kind of speaks to that. My first year managing here, there are certainly a couple of times when I was on the phone to the guy that was running the farm the year before me and saying to him, this is what's happening, what do we need to do? Or, you know, am I right? Am I on the right path? But there's plenty of people and there's so much support in dairy farming. I've got Bruce, the farm owner, Chris, who's the previous manager, but also just, you know, your neighbour, your friends. You're not in competition with these people, you know, you're working towards a kind of greater good. And so the information is really easy to get hold of. It's just knowing where to look. A really interesting thing was at the Dairy Industry Awards, there was, you know, a good probably half dozen of us at least that weren't from a farming background. And I think that, yeah, it takes the blinders off, the blinkers off. You're able to look at the whole picture and you're not in tunnel vision. You're not doing something just because that's the way it's always been done. You're always kind of challenging the norm and thinking about different ways to do things, or is the way that you are doing it the best way? And so, yeah, I think certainly coming from the outside, I'm not stuck in the, you know, this is how Dad did it and this is how Granddad did it, so this is how I'm going to do it. In my first season, I entered Dairy Trainee and won that in the Bay of Plenty, and then went on to Wellington and came runner-up in the finals. And so I entered that first year, I wanted to kind of get a yardstick as to where I was standing along the ladder. I thought I was picking up dairy farming pretty well, but I wanted to sort of mark and measure myself against someone else. And then once I was in the competition, I knew how it worked. I had such a great time in Wellington as soon as I was eligible to enter for farm manager, and I didn't have anything else on during the year. I sort of thought, yeah, why not? Let's have a go. And then one thing led to another. There is a lot of talk about how there are less share milking jobs and it is getting harder to own your own farm, but I think there is always going to be a need for some form of share milker or equity partnership. So long term, that is the plan. It is a tough time in the dairy industry, and I certainly know that from myself looking for my next job, to go self-employed is the plan. People tend to just be sitting tight at the moment, so there are fewer jobs out there. I've definitely noticed the turn down in that. But that to me just makes it all the more important to enter things like the Dairy Awards. You get that mark next to your name, and that's going to make you stand out when you do apply. And the fact that I've won, you know, that's certainly going to help open a few doors that might not have been there beforehand. So I'm still fairly positive that while we are in a bit of a lull at the moment, you know, my farm owner has been around long enough to see the highs and the lows and know that hopefully, you know, things will be on the up soon, and that's when hopefully I'll be able to step up.
This program was made with funding from New Zealand On Air.